You're gonna learn how to take a character, any character you like, and you're gonna import it into Autodesk Inventor. Take a picture from the internet, and you're gonna learn how to trace it and make it into a 3D model. You put a pathway through your character for the wires. So there is some holes that travel through his body. I'll teach you how to do that. And that's how the diode goes through it, and then you're going to solder the wires on. Why it's better if you're near a downed power line not to have your legs spread wide apart like Homer's are right now. You're far better off to shuffle and get away from the power line if it's downed, because the farther your legs are apart, the more voltage drop there is. And interestingly enough, diodes only let electricity flow one way. So if you turn sideways, there's actually no voltage between the electrodes. And if you point your character the wrong way, then diodes don't let electricity flow that way. So it's only one way, and the wider the legs apart, the more voltage goes through your diode. Okay, it's just hooked up to a 9-volt battery. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to do the shock and awe project. It's basically any character of your choosing. We are going to solder a diode through the body of any character that you like, and we need 2 electrodes at the bottom, and we're going to do something with electrical safety when this is done. Okay, so search on the internet for something that you want to model, and we're going to load it into Inventor, and then we are going to model it, and we're going to put a couple holes through it, and then we can feed our wires through when after we've soldered it. Okay, so I'll close that and I'll start from the beginning. Okay, I'll make a fresh one. I'm going to do SpongeBob. I kind of like this picture right here, so I'm going to save that image as, and then I'll just call it SpongeBob. And I'll put it in my downloads folder. Save. Then I want you to open the program called Autodesk Inventor. Go to New, click on the white page there, and then I think the default is on English, which is like imperial measurements, inches, but I prefer to work in metrics. And then we want to make a standard part in millimeters. Now we are going to start a brand new sketch. And it really doesn't matter which one you do, because you can always rotate later, but the best one would be if you click on top on the cube and then choose that plane. So we're like looking down on our print then. And so now I can start importing my image. So I've got my image, I've got it in the downloads folder, SpongeBob, open. Okay. So when you plop it in here, the size is kind of random. It depends on the resolution of the photo. But the maximum size, print size I want you to do is 80 millimeters. It's 8 centimeters by 8 centimeters. So go ahead and make a box, and then you can type numbers, 80 millimeters by 80 millimeters. Okay, that's your print size. So we can scale. It's actually pretty close for me, but I do want to scale it down a little bit. So there is a button at the top for scale. And then it says select your object, so it's going to be the image. A base point can be anywhere, doesn't matter. It's just like scaling it from where. And then you can give it like a decimal or something. You just try 0.8. That's going to be good. Now I'm ready to trace him. The way I like to trace is with this spline interpolation method here. Okay, I'll show you how it works. I'm going to just start anywhere, and I'm just going to kind of create points. Sometimes that thing gets in the way. You just have to, I clicked on the middle of my mouse to move it, middle of the mouse, move it. So that kind of gets in the way sometimes, a little bit annoying, but you can always fix these points later, so don't overthink it too much. They sometimes look weird when you first click on them, but then they kind of look better over time. So I just usually roughly make it pretty fast. Now, really important when you get to the end of this thing is to make sure you can connect it to the first one that you did. And it should kind of like snap. Okay, so you see how the line changes? That's really important that you click on that. Okay, and it's now a closed loop. I can get rid of my rectangle now. I'm just going to delete all 4 lines. Don't need that. I know that my scale is pretty good. And now, you know, he has holes in his arms here that I could do a separate spline for. So I'll make another spline. It has to be a closed loop, right? And don't cross over the other ones. Make sure it latches on, makes it a loop. Okay, I'll do one last one. And lock it in. I can see what that's going to look like. I can just click Finish Sketch. And then I can click Extrude. And now I can just select my shape, and we have the overall shape of SpongeBob. The maximum height I want you to do is 10 millimeters. That would be good to work with to fit our wires through, so that's the default. So all the other defaults are fine, and just click OK. And our picture disappears. That's okay, it's still here. If you go to the left and you click on the sketch, you could actually make it visible if you want, again, and you can actually reuse it to make more things. Okay, so I do want to actually change one thing in my extrusion. Instead of going forward, I'm going to go backward, because then actually I can see my detail on my drawing. So I'm going to add a few more things. So now you can raise and lower the surfaces to show the detail. So for example, I'm going to start a new sketch, and it's going to be on the object itself. So click on the object, and now I want to like do maybe his eyes. So the eyes are done. Now you can extrude that either up or down from the main object. Okay, so I don't need them that high. Just do like 1 millimeter for features like this. Okay, so I could go up by 1 millimeter, or I could actually cut into the object by 1 millimeter. And so I'll show you what the cut would look like. So press OK, and then I'm going to hide my sketch. So the visibility is now off. So now you can actually see his eyes. Okay, so by doing that, you could go through the details of your character and raise or lift any features by about 1 millimeter, and then they'll show up as different, and it would be easy to paint later if you wish to do so. Okay, but for now I'm going to move on to how to make holes that travel through your character. First of all, I need to open up this origin button here so I can see all my X and Y and Z planes. And now I'm going to say, all right, let's create a new plane that is offset from one of those. So figure out which one is going to be. We need a work plane like that to have our pathway of the wires, and we're going to start a sketch on that pathway, and I'm going to make a couple circles for the different wires. So I think 7 millimeters should be a good size for our wires to thread through, and so 7 millimeters is good enough. Okay, and so as long as your plane is above your character, that's fine. Now I need to make one more work plane. So I can go offset from the same one I just did, but this time I'm going to pull it so it's below the feet. Okay. And then now I can start, I have to click check mark. So there's a new work plane, something to sketch on, right down there. And I'm going to start a 2D sketch on that work plane. And I'm going to just find his feet here, 7 millimeters, and find his feet here, 7 millimeters. Create a sketch on another plane to make a pathway. Start 2D sketch. This time it's going to be the XY plane. And then start sketch. And this time I'm going to just make a spline that connects the center of, I have to project geometry first of everything. Maybe just the center. Put the center of these guys. Move my view a little bit. Middle mouse. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so now I can draw a spline between them. There we go. Okay, so grab one, and head to the other. It's the yellow dot that I'm looking for. Okay, and then you can adjust it so it's going to go through the leg. Okay, and then click the check mark when you're done. Okay, let's see if that works. And then finish sketch. Sweep. Now you pick the shape that you're going to sweep, and then you pick the curve, the pathway that you want it to follow. Okay. So that one's done, but I didn't want to add it. I wanted to subtract it, so I can always go back in and change things, so don't worry about making mistakes. Okay, so that made a hole through them. I've got some issues with his leg here. I would probably have to thicken his leg to make it so that it was not kind of weird like that. If you ever get lost, just click the home button and it'll get you back to where you want to go. Alright, so I got to do it for the other one too, so I need to make that sketch visible again so I can make another sweep through it. And I can probably just add to sketch 3 if I double click sketch 3. No, it was sketch 5 actually. Finish that sketch. Sketch 5 is the one, yeah. So I'll just make another spline. This time I'll just make a few more nodes so it goes where I want it to go. And then click there and yeah, and then finish the sketch. And then sweep, shape, and pathway, and cut, and OK. All right, and there it goes. So I definitely have a pathway through my character now for wires to travel. I would go back then and adjust his legs to be thicker. Sketch 1 is where that is. Go back and move the points so that his legs are thick enough to accommodate the wire. Okay, so I fixed one leg. Let's finish sketch. It should update automatically. Okay, I need to make it wider on the other side too. Okay, moving that over. Should fix that leg. Okay, and then repeat that for the other leg and do as much detail or as little detail as you want, and then it's ready to print. And I'll show you how to print now once you're done. You first of all definitely want to always save your file. So I'm going to save SpongeBob. Save that. And then when you're ready to 3D print, here's the steps. You go File, Print, don't click it, just hover, and then click 3D Print Preview. And now there's a little button up top with like 2 little diskettes. That's the magic button to export it as an STL file, which is for a 3D printer essentially. And there he is. And then I tell the program to slice that. And this print is going to take 1 hour and 17 minutes. 3D printing is a very slow process, folks, so be patient. And then I would actually send it wirelessly to my printer when it's ready.